she like is still talking to me, goes over to like her big box blinds, opens up, pulls out the largest bong I have ever seen, and then comes back over, reaches under her bed, and just starts loading it up. I'm like, oh shit.
Welcome to the Rewatchers on Speed. I'm Mitchell Marshall here along with my co-hosts
Tyler McKinley.
Gwen Hammer.
Justin Hammer.
So we watched Speed Racer, right?
Yes.
I listened to the podcast last week and I was like, what if I just watched the wrong movie? It could have been a fun podcast.
Or you just watched the entire animated
I watched
series.
52 episodes of a 1962 Japanese cartoon. Yeah, let's go a little over, then we can talk if we what background we kind of have on this. So Speed Racer came out in 2008, and this is what happened. Hot Wheels snorted crack on steroids, then gave Mario Kart an orgasm. So that
Sorry, what?
I did a real summary too. It's weird, man. All right. So, Ricky Bobby sucks at school. I forgot to bring shrooms to this movie. Oh shit, Speed is his actual name. Jason Street is in this film. Never mind, he's dead. Speed races his brother Shadow is. He has a boo named Trixie. Auto terrorism runs rampant. A monkey watches anime. Richard Branson is recruiting Speed real hard. A semi-truck mobster piranha waterboarding fun gets interrupted by a mass vigilante from Lost. Monkey gets chocolate wasted. Speeds turns down Globo Corp under threat of death and discredited trademarks. All racing is fixed. Jack Shepard is Racer X. They want Speed to rally race for overcomplicated and anti-bad guy reasons. Mediocre driver Elvis is talking to the mob boss, and honestly, I have no idea what's happening right now. Rally racing is here, and it's what happens when Mad Max and Death Race make a baby injected with NOS. Vikings use beehives. Speed suspects Racer X could be way for it. Rex. Now, some ninja assassin fights are happening. John Goodman is a wrestler. Trixie finna sub for Poisoned Guy. We're on the third film now, Tokyo Drift. I'm starting to suspect some green screen use in this movie. Elvis has a gun, but Speed Racer wins. Turns out, Speed Racer's new alliance was just a ploy to drive up stock prices? I'm so confused. Speed gets to drive in the Grand Prix, but they have to build a new car. Speed has a bounty on his head, but he's doing real good anyway. Spearhook problems. Speed blows up 2 cars and wins. Someone breaks an ice sculpture. Racer X faked his death and is really Rex, that liar. And they celebrate the victory with milk. Man, what a weird movie. So, this is directed by the Wachowski?
Yeah. I honestly have the hardest time knowing how to pronounce their name.
Yeah.
Is it Wachowski or Wachowski?
I have no idea.
We should have Googled it, but we're not professional. So, yeah. Subscribe to our Patreon and we'll look up how to pronounce shit. But, so this
That's
is
the first tier.
only Matrix came out in 2000 or 99? I think it was 99.
Yeah.
So
So
and
this
then
is-
the other two came out early 2000s, right?
Yeah. I think back to back 2, 3. So
And
this
this
is
was their first movie, I think,
yeah,
after that.
it was
right?
08. Oh, maybe there's one in between. But anyway, now everyone says it's avant-garde and it's intentional. And some of it, obviously, a lot of the campiness and self-reflexive and just the pure visualization, which is sometimes fascinating and cool, also sometimes just looks like shit. And it's self-aware, but it's not. And then they go on to make a bunch of other crappy movies. I'm a little confused at why this happened. And we'll talk about casting a little later, but there are all these really good people lined up that didn't end up doing it. John Goodman and Susan Sarandon did. But it's just so odd how this thing came to be. But I do want to rewatch it on drugs one day. It's just and it's also long. It's 2.5 hours.
Yeah, it's longer than it needs to be, definitely.
I was kind of surprised when I was paused and looked at the length, and I was like, oh, I was expecting a 120-minute thing. But
I never saw the cartoon. I have tertiary, it was on some random cartoon channel when I was a kid for a bit, but I didn't really know anything about it. What kind of history did you guys have with this movie or this franchise?
That's basically my experience as well. Speed Racer is just common in our culture. So it's like
Like
but it
him in
doesn't
his
make sense
car,
either.
that
Yeah.
Mach seems to be like something I've just
The
seen.
Mach 5. Yeah, like everybody knows who Speed Racer is, but I don't know if anybody's actually watched Speed Racer. That's the weird thing.
I watched a shit ton of Cartoon Network as a kid, and particularly Hanna-Barbera cartoons, which Speed Racer's not a Hanna-Barbera cartoon, but
Similar era.
yeah. And I feel like Speed Racer was occasionally on around that time, at least early on in my viewing of Cartoon Network, because I have seen like an episode and lots of clips just from.
Especially this past week.
Sometimes Cartoon Network, like, I mean, in a good way, I feel like kind of got up its own ass sometimes and like would do like weird. It would take characters that it had in its past and just like make weird shorts instead of commercials. And you'd like be watching like these
Yeah, that's
weird,
right, yeah.
like avant-garde shorts, like that were kind of uncomfortable sometimes. But yeah, that's kind of my experience with it. Is like I had seen maybe an episode and had seen it referenced a lot, but never. I guess kind of similar. Yeah, I've never actually like gotten into it. I didn't know. I mean, only recently Tyler started showing all of us the clips from Speed Racer that show that he's a sociopath. But
Well, I saw the one clip, and then I heard you guys talk about it briefly where someone's like, you have to let him win so he can use the money to save his life. And Speed Racer's like, no, I have to win.
Yeah.
That's the only one I've seen. But I'm just like, if there's more of that, okay, kid. Damn. But it's unique. It looks like it had a run in the 60s, and then 1997 they did kind of a reboot, but only 13 of those 30-some episodes got translated in English ever. And then they did do like a short run in 2008 to kind of go along with this movie. The movie cost $120 million plus at least $80 million in marketing because they also made a video game for it, and it made about $97 million total worldwide. So we're talking about
Really?
at least
Wow.
$100 million
Wow.
loss. And now it has a little bit of a cult following, but I'm not in that cult, and I love cults.
I think Justin is.
I don't know.
Yeah, do you
Hey,
guys- am I
you
shitting on
made
it too
me
much?
watch it when we were engaged because you loved it.
Good point.
Really?
Yeah.
So did you see it in theaters, or
I
why did
did.
you like really? Okay,
I
so you
went and
enjoyed
saw
right?
it. It started out as kind of like a joke. We're like, hey, let's go see Speed Racer. It was me and like some of my swim team buddies. And we're like, yeah, let's go watch Speed Racer. It's like the only thing that I don't know, hadn't seen at the time or whatever. So we went, we're all hanging out, a bunch of seniors in high school watching Speed Racer in the theater. And like for the first half of the movie, I think we were about ready to just get up and leave. And then second half of the movie starts, you get the actual races and stuff. And by the end of the movie, we got to the credits and everybody's like, holy shit, that was insane. We love this movie. And then we talked about it for the rest of the school year.
Really?
Yeah, and I've watched it probably, I don't know, 10 times since then. So yeah,
wow, you've seen a lot.
I really like I understand why people don't like it. Like
Yeah,
I
yeah.
can totally see like the valid points against it. But yeah, I really
I think
enjoy
I'm in a
this
similar
movie.
boat. The whole time watching this movie, like I couldn't help but wonder. I'm like, who is this movie for?
Yeah.
Except me. Like I'm like, I love this shit. This seems so catered to like my biases.
Mm-hmm.
Like once again, I agree with you, Justin. I could definitely see why this is not a movie for everyone. I love this movie. The first time I saw it, I liked it a little bit more than I did this time, I think. But like, because I think there's some sequences towards the beginning, particularly when he's going through the Willy Wonka factory at the beginning. That's way too long.
Yeah.
And obviously some of the special effects are on purposely like goofy looking, but some of them are just bad looking. They look like a bad 90s animated thing. But yeah, because it's like this very kid geared movie, but also there's a lot of swearing in this movie.
And then they do the weird interjection at the end before the kiss, and
Yeah.
so like some of
Yeah.
that stuff hit with me, and some of it didn't. And I think if it would have been 90 minutes and a lot more simple, but just as campy, I think I would have been in it. But like I talked about, I did not really understand what was happening with the stocks or the mob, like the actual storytelling. And I get that might be convoluted on purpose. And it's not that I felt this need to figure it out, because frankly, 20 minutes in, I'm kind of looking at my phone a little bit during this movie. But I was just like, why they didn't need to make it this complicated when you look at the actual sequences. I'm not great with acts, but when you really look at where this is going, I'm not one who ever wants to call a movie predictable or figure things out. I like enjoying the ride. I was like, we kind of know exactly where this is going to go. And they must have planned a sequel because they didn't tell us that Matthew Fox was Rex. But
Yeah, they did.
What? No, they told us. Sorry, they didn't tell them. They didn't tell the family.
Oh, gotcha.
Which apparently in both the cartoons they eventually do out that, which
Did
I was
not know
curious
that.
about. And apparently there has been a script written, and the last time is his name Emil?
Emil
Hirsch?
Yeah.
Talked about it was 2018, so I mean,
Well, I feel like
there's hope.
I feel like Emil Hirsch was supposed to, at that time, he was in a few things, and he was supposed to be like the next big thing.
Yeah.
Like he was
But
supposed to be like the next Brad Pitt in
He was
Hollywood.
kind of,
and-
yeah, and maybe he was doing that right, because he was kind of straddling this mainstream and still doing like some weird indie shit.
Yeah.
But he did some like teen rom-com. He did Where the Wild Things Are, I think.
No, you're thinking The Wild.
The Wild. Okay, you're right. Okay.
Yeah.
But
when did he choke the person out at Sundance?
Did he choke
I'm
someone out
sorry,
at
what?
Sundance?
Yeah.
I remember. I think that's only a few years ago,
feel
like
like
16 or 17.
That was because he was in oh shoot, what movie came out last year that
It looks like 2015.
2015.
Maybe it was he got sentenced in.
I think he was drunk at the time, possibly, and he choked out a female producer or somebody
Wow.
at Sundance, and yeah.
You know, I don't say this as an insult or a negative, but like that dude's done cocaine, and you just never know. You know. I just think everyone in Hollywood's
But
done cocaine.
I
just
think
assume
that's
he's
it.
violent.
he was in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, I think. I
Is-
believe he was in that. I don't know how major of a role because I haven't seen that movie yet. But
Why
I
can't I
think
think
he's
of that?
I think he's in that. So he's obviously working again.
Yeah. It's funny because not it's funny.
Oh,
but,
yes.
you know,
No, yeah. Okay, now I remember who he is.
Okay.
Yeah.
when you talk about like,
Gwen, what are you thinking?
yeah, Gwen, what were your overall? Because you've seen this before now, and now you've seen it again, and we're talking about it.
Are we talking about Speed Racer or a producer being choked out at Sundance? Because
I mean, that
Stuck
happens
on
all
that.
the time at Sundance. I've been choked out at Sundance.
I need to move.
It just depends on which room you're in, whether or not it's okay.
Oh, I gotcha.
It looks like he's done a lot of voice work, and then kind of some selective, smaller things. I'm looking for anything mainstream since 2015. Not particularly. Yeah, well, I don't want to go this route, but there's someone else who got in trouble for a violent crime recently who was going to play the Flash, and I really want someone else to play the Flash, so I kind of hope he does get canceled, even though I don't support cancel culture in that type of way. I also hope he gets better, because it seems like he did it because he was super on drugs and hurt a woman, and that's not okay.
Wow, you really speed racered that. That was.
Thank you. I wanted to get that opinion out there, but I didn't want to give it too much time.
But that is to go back into the movie. That is kind of something that struck me this time on the viewing is kind of the pacing of each scene is actually, other than that sequence I mentioned where he first goes through the factories, it's very quick. It's very, and that's actually something I appreciate about the movie is there is a lot of like juvenile humor in it, but it doesn't hold on those in the same way that a lot of cringy juvenile humor movies do. Like an example is like that ninja fight in the hotel room. At one point, the ninja's pants get ripped off.
Yeah, it gets
and in
slapsticky.
any other movie, there's gonna be a part where he backs away, the camera cuts him and holds on him and be like, oh my gosh, I'm in my underwear. Like that doesn't happen in this movie. The scene just kind of plays on and you just know what's happened. They don't have to like beat you over the head with it.
But then John Goodman puts him over his head and like spins him, and it's just very interesting. Can you think of anything that is like, I know movies that have just as much green screen where nothing you're almost looking at in the background is real, other than like that hotel and their actual house and some of the garage stuff. Like almost everything else, there is not anything real. That's why when he starts driving around at night after he realizes he got screwed and he's just on that track, I was like, oh, this kind of feels kind of good. It looks a little bit more visceral. It actually kind of reminded me of Alita Battle Angel and how they do that Battle Dome stuff.
I haven't seen
I didn't
it.
see that
Damn
one.
it.
But it does
I
remind
need
me
to
of
see it.
Sky Captain and the World of Tomorrow.
Yeah.
That one
That
was
was a
super
weird
green
fucking
screen.
movie.
I hated that movie.
But the amount of green screen, just the back and forth between like cool visuals and racing, and then just kind of ridiculous, like the mountainscape that they're in during the rally race. And I'm just like, this looks so dumb. And because they're wasting 5 consecutive minutes on the plot line that doesn't actually matter, I think that just got me frustrated. But there are some, I totally get why it has a camp, enjoyable following.
Yeah, I think it does have a kind of a weird narrative structure to it because it's this thing that starts out very personal and then it turns into we have to do something bigger than ourselves and stop the crime lords and like all this stuff. And then it goes back to being very personal and those things don't necessarily feel thematically connected other than racing.
Yeah.
It's like the end, it's literally like the big twist to save the day is That dude's sister shows up with the invitation, and it's like, I'm gonna do this race just because I want to do the race, not because I'm trying to take down anyone. As opposed, that's what we've been trying to do for like a whole chunk of the movie.
There's not like narrative opportunity for us to feel like, hey, here's his opportunity to get rid of the race fixing, save his dad's company, anything like that until, that a few plot devices just kind of have to be thrown in. I'm also very curious because they had so much leeway. I wonder how many different movies they could have made out of this. And I wonder if this is what, if whose cut this is and if there's a better cut. But yeah.
I mean, I love the shit out of this movie, to be honest.
I know. I can you explain? Because one thing is, I love sports, and so I really understand when a narrative movie or television show specifically hinges character emotions on attachment to family and sport. Like that is something we've seen many times, and I just could not have. I totally got why that was the most important thing in their lives, but it did not emotionally connect with me.
Oh yeah,
it did for me. That
Did
was
it?
what I really, yeah. Like, I mean, I wasn't watching super closely because reasons, but that's the part I liked. Is like the family centric, and we're going to take care of our family, and my family's the most important, which I do not always appreciate in a story, but for this one I did.
I did like the family. I like their house and the quirkiness
I love
and
that house.
like Susan Sarandon just doing whatever she wants, like getting paid to not do much in a great way. But I was kind of interested in her and even Trixie, like him and Trixie. You see them when they're kids, and then they grow up and they're just together, which is great. I don't need their love story, but she becomes pretty important to him as like this rock, and then she really gets involved. And I wanted a little bit more from that development, but I really did enjoy like the John Goodman stuff, the little brother and the monkey, which I still don't understand why the monkey was there or anything. It's kind of unexplained, but he throws poop and he does monkey things.
It's
So
in the cartoons, I think. That's about it.
well, it's interesting that they have an older brother. Like, did they just be like, yeah, we're going to wait 7 years between boys twice?
yeah.
At
Like-
least 7.
That's
Yeah,
what
I didn't know that
yeah.
the pit friend
Sparky?
master,
Sparky,
that guy
yeah.
was a brother.
Well, they
until
refer to him as a
reason.
one time, but
I don't think
in
he
everything
is.
I read, he's not. He's just a friend.
Oh,
but
I thought he was.
clearly
No.
very-
I thought they
do
called him-
refer to him as a son or a brother one time.
Oh, okay.
I remember that. I got you.
Why was he in their house?
Yeah. He's like their best friend. If you,
Yeah.
I mean, it's so funny. I actually am
Racing
thinking of
families.
I'm thinking
I
of a
don't know.
Disney
Like
Channel
Art
movie.
from the Burbs is in their house in that movie.
Oh,
It's
okay.
like,
Have you guys seen that Disney Channel original movie where it's the girl who takes over for her injured brother to race motor?
Was that
Bikes.
the Frankie Muniz one?
No, that's Miracle on something, and he's like a handicapped kid who races the soapbox.
Yeah, the soapbox one. Yeah,
But
I don't know.
think that illustrates
Yeah.
it too. Like these racing communities, it is like your mechanic, your engineer, like you do become a little bit of a family.
Yep.
I'm gonna go through some quick casting what ifs because
right.
I'm curious about this. So people who legitimately auditioned for this: Joseph Gordon-Levitt, Shia LaBeouf, and Zac Efron
Dang.
For Speed.
for Speed.
Wow.
Kind of on board with those. Actually, like looking back, if you told me, if I wasn't thinking close, and you told me it was Joseph Gordon-Levitt with this movie, I'd believe you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that.
Wait,
who was the third one?
Zac Efron.
Oh.
I'm pretty pro Zac Efron.
Yeah, I think he's great.
He actually has a health and wellness travel show on Netflix right now that's really fun. But you're right, when he pops up in things, he does a pretty good job.
Yeah.
Alicia Cuthbert, Kate Mara, and Rose McGowan were all considered for the role of Trixie. And then some guy named Henry Rollins was almost Racer X. I don't know who that is. But I'm like, that's actually a pretty interesting group of people. But they were trying to get this movie off the ground since 1992.
Oh, geez.
So it kind of makes sense that they had gone through some names and like some big J.J. Abrams, Mark Levin, Alfonso Cuarón, Gus Van Sant were all attached to this at some point.
I would have loved to see a J.J. Abrams version of this film.
Here's the thing. I get why people don't like what J.J. Abrams did with Star Wars. I think most people appreciate what he did with Star Trek. I get where there's like this appreciation that like, hey, he really did great stuff on TV, but a lot of his movies haven't really come through that great. Although Mission Impossible 3 is pretty good. But man, if you put this in his hands, I think there's a more cohesive and interesting, I don't want to say visually interesting, I want to say more visually comprehensible for my brain type
I
of
had a
version
hard
of
time
this.
looking at it. I really did.
Oh, good. Okay.
It's like every 10 minutes, Gwen is like, what you were saying, like, doesn't it hurt your eyes or something? Like,
I could watch when they were in the canyon. I could watch that comfortably, but the rest of it, the rest of the racing stuff, I couldn't look at for too long because it was
my
going to give
favorite
me a
part.
headache.
That's my favorite part. Oh man, I love it.
I
Do we
also-
know? Do we know where did the script originate? Whose script is it?
Let me see who they actually
Who
list.
wrote it? I guess.
So written by the Wachowskis.
Okay, so they were actually shopping. They've been shopping around for directors for forever.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it sounds like they don't have as much. They have a lot about the production journey, but not necessarily the writing journey. Joel Silver is also involved and was attached for a long time. He's a producer, but his name is known because he's a pretty involved producer.
Okay.
So I wouldn't be surprised if he had a little bit more involvement, and he's been involved with like Die Hard, Predator, like big things. It is kind of a bizarre movie, but when it came out, I thought this looks cool.
Yep.
But it could absolutely be a mess. And then I just never. I think I was seeing a lot of movies around them, but for whatever reason, this one didn't quite hit. Never quite went to go see it, but I thought it visually looked really cool. But I guess it makes sense why it didn't like really hit things on the head with a bigger crowd. Which I want to know how much studio interference there was, because man, you lose $100 million on something.
Yeah.
That sucks.
Jeez.
I feel like, I mean, you said they were trying to make it since like 1992, but I feel like maybe they were trying. Well, maybe I have the timing wrong. When did Transformers come out? I was thinking they were maybe trying to capitalize on that like kids growing up with the show and then watching the movie sort of crowd, but I don't think anyone watched
Transformers,
Speed
I think,
Racer.
was 10 or 11.
Oh, okay. So yeah, I've got my timing way off.
But I think that that was still within a whole zone.
The first Transformers movie?
Yeah.
No, it was earlier than that.
It was?
Yeah. I mean, it's irrelevant, but
No, I'm curious now. Oh, also in 2005, Johnny Depp was attached to this, which is like, again, that's 9 years
Yeah.
pre-Caribbean.
who
but
wasn't attached to this movie? At some point?
2007 Transformers.
Yeah.
Okay, you're right.
Yeah.
Interesting. This movie at the box office lost to some rom-com and Iron Man.
Oh.
And so that's kind of a tough hang because, like you said, we don't really know what audience they were going for, but I bet that audience had some crossover with Iron Man.
Yeah.
Which Iron Man
I
might be
think
the
so.
most pleasant surprise, and it's obviously had a massive effect on our society. But I found Iron Man because I didn't have any Iron Man knowledge, and when it came out, like very pleasant surprise for me out of the last 20 years, as far as movies go.
Yeah.
So that maybe that sucks for Speed Racer as well to come up against that. Couple other things, nitpicking. You got to stop calling everything art. When people start calling food art, it took me a while to warm up to it, but I'm there. I love it. But we're calling racing an art. You're trying to win. So I get in this one. There's more choreography. Like you got to jump over
No
shit
one's fighting
and
you
be
on
great.
this.
But
Did you even watch the
What are we
movie?
doing?
Did you see what he did?
I did,
It
and
was
I didn't
art.
think it was art.
I mean, it's kind of art in the sense of like if figure skating is an art, I would argue that type of racing is an art.
But figure skating is scored. But I totally get what you're saying in that comparison. Yeah.
But regular racing, I have a hard time being convinced it's even a sport. So
I gotta point you to some docu-series that are like, whoa, that is athletic feat. But I mean, it's like how golf's not quite a sport, but it takes some serious physical and mental genius.
yeah, I'm not saying it doesn't take any skill.
No,
or anything.
I like it when you take a bold.
I
Tell me it's
I
not a
think
sport.
golf and racing are very skill based, but at the end of the day, they're pastimes. They're not like sports, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, people are like, "Oh man, well, it takes like some endurance to drive a race car that fucking fast." I'm like, "Yeah, so does lying on a bed of nails," but like that's not a fucking sport.
But
like,
the focus,
I'm gonna
the
make it
the
one.
maneuvering, but yeah, not quite an art. But I get where this. Maybe the behaviors are an art to really be in that much rhythm with a machine. Now I'm getting existential about.
I feel like this is where we start talking about the word liminal.
I don't know what that word means. Please tell me.
It's like between worlds. So a werewolf is liminal. Now I
A
can't think of it.
unicorn?
Speed Racer became liminal. At the
Did
end
you
of
guys
the
know a
movie.
unicorn is the national animal of Scotland?
No,
Okay,
but
that's
I love
true.
that.
One last comment on the editing on this is all the face transitions. They were
That's
using
one
their.
of those things that I love, though. It's like,
I
man.
wouldn't say that's a criticism. It's just something that is so used, especially during the racing with the commentators, so much to have their head move and change what's going on. I was like, that's an original quirk.
Yeah, I really love the editing in this movie, to be honest. I think it's like the editing, as far as like the editing cuts and paces go,
yeah.
I think is phenomenal. I think the fact that you can actually follow what's going on in those races with how fucking crazy they are is a real testament to whoever is in charge of the fake digital camera.
Yeah.
and and the editing in itself.
Go ahead.
I really love the opening sequence of this movie because it fits right into the tone really well, and it gets so much. I mean, it is very exposition heavy, but it's in a way that's very creative and quirky, and gets all this information across in a very and it works with the visuals. Like, it keeps cutting back to like the flashbacks of the family, but then it cuts back to like him actually racing his brother, like the ghost of his brother in real time, and then like it's going through all these different things in the announcers. I thought that was a really creative way to get a lot of information presented very quickly
in an exciting way. But I was confused because, of course, I'm still paying pretty heavy attention at this point, and I'm like, okay, is he erasing his brother's memory, or is like, do they literally have that technology to digitally have the fast? Because they have it with swimming, and they have it on Mario Kart where you're literally racing your ghost. Oh, don't worry, more Mario Kart on the way. But then we're going back to memories. Then the guys race. Then he's dead, but we don't. Yeah. A lot of emotion, a lot of exposition trying to be put right there. Like, if I'm 12, I'm probably like, cool, that looked cool, but where's the brother? Okay.
Yeah.
But it's
a big risk going for like that climactic emotional moment right out of the gate, which I also appreciate about this movie. And like,
Up stole that from them.
Yeah, it's fucking Pixar, the hacks.
Don't do anything original.
Yeah, I don't know. I have a weird space on this movie just because I love so much about it, and I think there's things that are genuinely amazing filmmaking going on here. Yeah. But I also think that, like like I said earlier, like I totally get, like, if you're going in looking for something that's more like, I don't know, narratively tight and like put together in a way that's, it kind of depends what you're trying to get out of it, I guess. It's like, for me, like I said, it hits all my personal biases, but like, just from a filmmaking perspective, all the races I think are done exceptionally well, and I am 110% there for those. I think the humor is either hit or miss with you, I think, in this movie. I fucking love that ninja joke, though, because it's so delayed after this long, lengthy ninja battle. He gets thrown down. Was that a ninja? Like, it's so good.
There are a few really good little quips. And I wonder if the Wachowskis were given a lot of license with this because they're immensely talented, and therefore they were allowed to make something that was risky and a little discombobulated, because I do think that there is a version of this it doesn't even have to be narratively perfect, but it's a little bit more family friendly, just in that, like, we have this really cool visual of this classic character, which, again, I do think a kid could have finished this and kind of given you the main beats of, like, well, he wanted to be a racer and his brother died, and then he had to do the rally race and they got into the Grand Prix and won and stopped the bad guy. Like, it's there. And I just
do you think it got a bit convoluted with them trying to squeeze in too many things from the cartoon? Like, too many characters, especially. Like, what is his name? What do they call him? Inspector Detector. Like, he's definitely a character.
He's actually, when you look back at the full thing, he's kind of critical.
Yeah.
He serves a couple key things with Racer X. And that's the thing is, because they tried to serve so many, they didn't.
But I feel like you could make Racer X just be the same thing that Inspector Detector
those characters could have 1,000% been one thing.
Like, which I personally like that they aren't. I kind of like the fact when it is just a movie like this where it's like, let's just go bonkers. I like when they make choices like that, even though from like a filmmaking perspective, yes, you probably should have just put those two characters together and stuff like that throughout the film. I feel like, I don't know, do you feel like that happens in more places than that? That's all kind of over the film, or?
It is, but like, I think just you had the mob, you had the guy who's that big head of the corporation, and then you had the smaller corporation that was trying to get bought out at the higher stock price. Again, it should not be in this movie, frankly. But I think not to view them all as villains, but to just have all those different entities, like, there could have been some cleaned up. Here's the thing. You make this movie 100 minutes, you clean it up, and it hits big, then you can make a sequel and add those things that you missed. It's like how the second Sonic movie is going to have Ninetales. Like, just hold off for me. You don't have to throw all your ice cream in the bucket.
Ninetales?
Is that
Pokemon crossover?
I'm so sorry. What's it? Fox?
Yes, I'm throwing Pokemon.
Just Tails.
Just Tails. Man,
Ninetales
that's
is a
embarrassing.
Pokemon.
You're right. The evolution of that other Pokemon.
Vulpix.
Damn.
I got you.
I'm low on my Pokemon knowledge these days.
I busted my Pokemon cards out yesterday to show my kids.
Nice.
And then Gwen went and bought him some Pokemon cards. So the next generation of Pokemon collection has begun.
250 Pokemon. I'm like, y'all went too hard. You went too crazy.
That's how I feel too. But
I liked it for a long time.
After the first gen, so.
I actually gave away my Pokemon cards to like a boys and girls club. Like that was the most popular thing, and I had a big old binder. And now I'm looking back and like, what if I had just won? That was worth like $80. I regret giving it to a child. Anyway, yeah, I think there's a good movie in here. Or I wonder if there's like a 4-hour like Netflix miniseries in there. And I think it's a good sign that as though I was frustrated, there was so much good in there that I almost wish they would have done it in a more cohesive way where there could have been more or it could have made more sense. But again, they do things that if the Wachowskis didn't have their pull and didn't have this story, we probably wouldn't get. And I'm sure it's influenced other things. It's just, maybe it's like the marketer in me. I've never done any marketing, but it's just like, I do want art like this to be successful. And so I'm willing to give up some of that, like what the f is going on, even though it appeals to people to make it be profitable.
Yeah. I wish
It's a dance
I can
with
see
the
that.
devil.
I was just thinking, like, I feel like something that I love about this movie is the climax at the end of it.
Mm-hmm.
That final race is incredibly visually stimulating and just perfect to watch, in my opinion. The way that everything comes together, the colors and everything is just mind-blowing. And I wonder, like, to have something like that, like, there's so many, like, each of those races are just these little pieces of, like, incredible artistic moments in the movie. And, like, I wonder if they started with those ideas and, like, had to piece
They had to
stuff
pull
together
from the cartoon
based on that.
and
Yeah.
make a narrative around them.
Which, frankly, I'm willing to sit through the stock price bullshit and everything to just watch the races in this movie. Like, I get, like, it's not like, well, I'll say I get like emotional from the way that this movie ends, just because of how everything's coming together, the visuals, the music. There's like the screaming announcers that they keep flashing to. Everything's coming together that way, and yeah, it's just, I think as far as like emotional manipulation goes, like it's incredible what they do at the end of this movie.
I do love that visual of when he crosses the finish line. It's like all the flashing reflecting on his helmet.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was really cool. I love a lot of the art design in this movie. I think especially that first version of the Mach 5, I want that car so bad.
Yeah.
It looks so cool. And like his dumb like Scooby-Doo ascot outfit that he's got on, just like the cartoon. When it's like seen like that in like real life, I love that shit.
Yeah.
I love once again, critiques are fair. I love the stock market shit because it's just so it's so Japanese and just bonkers.
That's very,
like
it has some anime characteristics for sure.
and like just stuff like that. I like totally get why people don't like it, but like that is so funny to me. I'm like, oh yeah, of course they were just trying to get their stock prices up, and holy shit. And like the fight in the snow, I love the effects of that, like the weird, the camera whipping and all that stuff. All the anime tropes in this are so fun. And there was one in particular I was thinking of that was the whole purpose of me even talking, and I can't remember what it was.
So when Racer X punches that guy,
That was my favorite.
that's
part.
like one of my favorite gag. It's not a gag. One of my favorite moments in any of the races where he boosts his car up and punches that guy.
Oh,
flies
yes.
over him.
But yeah, that
So
reminded me. There's a
badass.
couple things that Racer X in general. That guy's voice is so cool. Like,
Yeah.
just that, like, I don't know why. When he takes his mask off, it kind of ruins it because, like, it's
Jack Shepherd.
so. I don't know. He's just got this
Does
like
make me want to rewatch Lost.
coolness about him. I don't know what it is. And it's very anime too. It's like, oh, like the anti-hero in the background is always the cool guy. And but I also love how we've been watching like a lot of really heavy movies, and I love how this movie,
Like Teenage Mutant Ninja
yes,
Turtles, and
the deepest
Surf
of
Ninjas,
things that we had to dive into. I love like, oh man, I got a lot of thoughts. I don't know if I want to go on all these. I'll just say it this way: there was an opinion piece written lately about The Last of Us 2 that was basically like,
No spoilers?
no, there was not spoilers. It essentially was like, we need to go back to everything being black and white morality. And I'm like, get fucked. Like, no, like, we're not even going to go into like why that's stupid.
Who gets to decide what's black and white?
But like, variety is what's great in media. I like having both. And this movie, the morality system is very black and white to a point where like if you wanted to be an asshole, you could sit there and critique it and be like, well, the Speed family is really immoral because they're fucked up with this. But get out of here. That's not the point. Like, it's fun to have just that like black and white, just childlike joy and easy to distinguish. And it's weird that they have that because the movie gets into like some really convoluted like stock market shit, but it's still all very face value, good and bad. And it's just really fun to be on like a live action cartoon that's kind of made for adults, but kind of not. It's a weird movie, man.
Yeah. John Goodman playing a dad it just feels good.
Yeah, and Susan Sarandon playing a mom. It's
Yeah.
like it's just what you want.
Match made in
It
heaven.
makes me happy.
No, there's like I said, there are so many fun little moments and beautiful visuals, and it legitimately made me want to play like the newer Mario Karts. You really are hopping around like that. Gravity's changing. It's colorful. Anyway, but the ending, it pays off for sure. I just, like I said, because that sport and emotion didn't quite click with me, it was almost like it was either family or sport, and it didn't quite sync, but it was still all there by the end. Yeah, that was Speed Racer. Why? Do you guys remember why we watched this?
Oh shit! Who was the connection?
No, I've got a list for the break. Don't you worry.
Oh, for our next one?
Yes.
Oh,
But how do we
but
get
do you remember
here,
why
though?
this? Who did this?
I think Tyler Harris is the one that got us here. I don't
shit.
remember what the connection was. The podcast is ruined.
Damn it.
It's a.
We'll get back to
We
you
just
during
cheat
recommendations.
our way to watch whatever we want anyway. All right, cool. That was Speed Racer. We'll come back. You're gonna have to listen to recommendations this week so you can have us hear us tease what we're going to be doing next week because it's exciting. And but yeah, and if you want to find us at Rewatchers Pod on Twitter, Instagram.
Reach Watchers?
Rewatchers. Reach Watchers. We just watch fan made videos of Halo Reach. Okay, we'll be right back after some recommendations. Welcome back to the Rewatchers on the Pod. I know how much you enjoyed Speed Racer, but next week we go in a completely opposite direction. We're going to follow Sarah D. Moore.
Allison D. Moore.
Damn, that was close. Allison D. Moore, the Foley artist for Speed Racer, is also the Foley artist for a completely different movie called Interstellar, which is going to be fun. It's going to be my first time seeing it. I consider it, like, as far as movies in the last 5 years, 10 years, like, one of my biggest... How did Mitchell not see that? He sees all the freaking movies. Foley artists, by the way, if you don't know, they make the sounds that aren't picked up by the camera, that aren't used, and a lot of sounds are not made. So if someone's walking upstairs and they want that to hit in a certain way, a lot of times that live sound is not great. So a Foley artist will create that sound using something else. So
my favorite Foley artist thing is in Gears of War 2, the sound of the headshot is very satisfying. And even when I was playing it, I knew it was very satisfying. But then I learned how it was made in like a behind the scenes video. And it's like a big part of it was just a head of lettuce that they crushed. And then I think there's also like a really very turned down and distorted glass breaking also attached to it. And it's just like this crunch that's, and like then after that, every time I played, I was like, man, I want P.F. Chang's lettuce wraps.
I love P.F. Chang's.
I wanted to be a Foley artist when I grow up.
It's a cool job. You get to be creative. And
way
again,
cool.
like you said, like sounds can be distorted in ways. And I'm sure all the film nerds know what that is. But if you don't, like, I remember the first time I saw a behind the scenes thing on Lord of the Rings and they showed a Foley artist like doing stuff with boots and just pieces of wood. I was like, yeah, this is genius.
I've got an image of a lady with her fingers in a grapefruit half for the nasty worms in the second new Star Wars movie.
Oh,
The
Last
sorry.
Jedi.
no, the
That is-
older new movies.
Rogue One?
No, the older new movies that came out when
Are you
we
talking
were
about
in
episode two?
Attack of the
Episode
Clones.
2, Attack of the Clones. Yes.
Gosh.
Worm
I
things,
see
guys.
those
Come
New
on.
Star Wars movies that are how old at this point?
2000 and
I'm in denial.
anyway, that will be fun.
Oh my
And
gosh!
Interstellar, we're gonna look into the full. We're gonna actually remember who we chose, and we're gonna look into the full. Like, what could have been done by Foley in this movie? So join us for that. Go rewatch. I haven't seen a Matthew McConaughey movie in weeks, so I'm excited for it. Let's do some recommendations. Gwen, what do you got?
Okay. So I know that I've waved this book in both of your faces, but Mitchell and our listeners,
ready.
the Imperial Ratch series I just reread. So it's a trilogy, and then there's like a, I don't know, spin-off sequel kind of. It takes place after the events of the trilogy. But I just really like it, guys. I want
Give me
you
the
all to
elevator
read it.
pitch.
Okay, so there is an empire. It's
Love it.
space sometime in the future. And when this empire takes over planets with humans on it, it takes like half of the humans and puts them in storage. And then when they're needed, they turn those human bodies into
Energy.
no. I do like that movie. Like walking around parts of artificial intelligences that pilot ships. That I made that way harder than it needed to be. But there's one where it's one body that's left of this artificial intelligence, and she gets cut off from the rest of herself, and it is her journey to kill the person that did that to her. And it's fantastic, and I love it. And it does all
Ooh.
sorts of weird things with gender and language, and it's so confusing and fantastic. And
Repeat the title first again.
Ancillary Justice. It's the Imperial Ratch series.
The Imperial Ratch, like RATCH?
RADTCH, I think.
Okay.
Okay, but the bad guy's name is Anna Andamyatnai, so that you just have to read it because of that.
I feel you. All right.
Okay, but I've also been watching The Crown season 2 while I work,
Ooh.
and I feel super guilty for watching this drama about living people, and it keeps sending me to Wikipedia and being like, wait, were they really this terrible? I'm very conflicted about watching it, but it's good.
That show is, I only got partway through the first season. It just wasn't hitting for me to keep me engaged, but it is beautifully shot.
Mm-hmm.
The production design and the acting look insanely expensive. And I say that for so many reasons, but it is like when they go to Africa, can you imagine how much it costs to shoot that?
They do it again in season 2.
Do they? Oh
Yeah.
my gosh. So we're going to stop that after season 4 because I can't remember her name, but woman who won an Oscar for The Favorite takes over the role of the queen.
Yep.
And now they're doing seasons 5 and 6, which they previously weren't going to do. And they actually just cast Princess Diana. And I can't remember the name of the actress, but she's 6'3".
I saw this earlier
and
today.
she's striking. And like Princess Diana isn't really part of our childhood, but that was such a massive story. Mm-hmm. It's going to be, but you're right. The whole conflict of living people. And like when you get into Princess Diana, you're getting into her 2 sons, which are very big in the news right now.
Mm-hmm.
I find that
I
fascinating.
just watched an episode where Prince Andrew was born. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
oh.
Oh. Was he born on Epstein's Island?
Gosh.
Oh, man.
Okay. Justin, what do you got for us? Oh, did you have any more?
No, I'm
Anything?
done. I'm done.
Just something real quick. I started playing Bloodborne again. I think I'm sure we've talked about this multiple times on the podcast. I feel like Tyler Harris has brought it up, or maybe not, or maybe
I
it
don't
was
think
I
we-
don't
think
remember
we've
hearing
talked
it,
about
Bloodborne.
Or maybe I
Okay.
talked about Bloodborne because I played it a while ago. but-
Okay, but anyways, came out 4 years ago, maybe 5. It was pretty early in the PS4's life cycle, whatever you want to call that. But anyways, it's been long enough that I haven't played it in so long that I have forgotten so much. And I got my ass kicked real bad last night on the first main boss that you come across, and I felt like a piece of shit because like I love the Souls games just so much, and I was like, man, I should be better than this. But yeah, it's starting to come back now. It's a really interesting setting. It has some crazy turns for the setting that happen. You think, like, you go into it thinking it's like werewolves and I don't know, vampires. Maybe you think it's kind of that sort of thing, but it turns out that that's not what this game is about. It's
That sounds like a good twist to me.
It's real good. Yeah, it gets. I mean, this isn't a spoiler because it's very early in the game that you start reading about like the old ones and stuff. It's very Lovecraftian. Like once you get further into things, and
It gets like kind of psychedelic.
Yeah.
Like it starts out like very Victorian horror, and then all of a sudden, like halfway through, you're like, where did this game go? Like
Yeah.
it's crazy.
yeah. So yeah, it's a really good game. If you have a PlayStation and you have not played that game specifically, then you need to play it.
Is that it?
The end.
Cool. Okay, I'll go real quick. So, a quick update on TikTok. For some reason, I swear, I was trying to get out of like just girls dancing TikTok because that's a huge part of TikTok.
But
to,
it
like,
keeps
the fun
pulling you
stuff.
back in.
No. I've successful, but from what I view and what I actually, so when I think TikTok knows when you click to a profile and want to look at more of it. So I thought I've been doing a good job of like curating my view. For some reason, I am deep into black conservative TikTok and like lesbian, and I'm talking about like hardcore lesbian TikTok, which are two very, very different things. And it's not like every
That Venn
video,
diagram overlaps quite a bit.
but a few times every day. If I've been on the road the last couple weeks, so I haven't been on TikTok much at all. But for some reason, I keep getting both of those, and I'm like, look, I don't want to see anything political, and I don't like. And sometimes the lesbian stuff is funny. Like, I'm not going to be the most in touch with lesbian culture, so it's like it's interesting, but they're so specific. Those, and I don't know how I got there. So TikTok, just China. What made you think this, China? Anyway, let's move on to some real recommendations.
Yeah, was that a recommendation?
Yeah,
I don't. It was just an
happened?
update on a past recommendation because I do think TikTok is really fun and shouldn't just be for 16 to 22-year-olds. But you can get into it like. My friend keeps sending me haunted TikToks, like where people are. So that's what's interesting is any genre that's on TV, you can find on TikTok. So like it's these people doing all this creepy shit or talking about their creepy experiences. Like you have those TLC shows where people go into haunted places. It's just like you can find very specific corners of TikTok, and it's very interesting. Anyway, I don't recommend getting into a weird corner of TikTok. How about that? It's an anti-recommendation. Real great recommendations. There's a podcast called The Oral History of The Office. It is only 12 episodes. It's hosted by Brian Baumgartner, a.k.a. Kevin, and it's The Office Ladies is a rewatch podcast where they're watching every episode. This is just like the full history all the way from the British like roots in America through like how it evolved and got more popular and everything. And I just find the behind the scenes stuff fascinating. I've also been listening to a behind the scenes on American Idol podcast just because like the way that stuff develops to me is super interesting. I'm watching a food show, or I finished it today, on Netflix called The Final Table. That came out in 2018, and as someone who loves to travel, they pick a country, and all these really renowned chefs, like Michelin-starred chefs, like James Beard Award winners, have to cook for that country, and they get judged, and it has some dumb format things, but in the end, like, it is really cool to see food that way. I just think it's my favorite food competition show I've seen. Like, everyone's like, watch Chopped, watch Top Chef, and I just haven't been able to get into them. I just my over recommendation is this: go watch a movie from between 1993 and 1997. I went back and watched one called Camp Nowhere. Have any of you guys ever heard of this?
I've heard of it. Yeah.
So it's on Disney Plus, and it's
I was gonna say, isn't that like a Disney Channel original movie?
so it wasn't. It was like a regular theatrical release, but it's like I'm trying to think of some comparable era stuff. But it was made in 1994. It's got Doc from Back to the Future in it. And it's about these kids, and their parents each want them to go to these specific camps. Like, you need to go to computer camp, you need to go to fat camp, you need to go to theater camp, and they don't want to go. So they fake their own camp. And what's interesting is if this was made today, they would just put 17 and 18-year-old and 20-year-old people as 15 and 16, as 14 and 15-year-olds. These are like legit 12-year-old kids, and they have their own camp. And seeing that as like a 10-year-old, I was like, this would be the greatest thing in the history of the world if I just had my own camp. And I don't think people would like it that don't have the nostalgia connected to it, but we all talk about nostalgia candy and like reaching back to the 80s, but shit, like none of us were teenagers in the 80s. I think to find something that was really like, because I had older siblings, so even though I was only 3 in 1994, it was really big from them. And so if you go back to those things that you're like, this is something I aspired to, like I was 5 and had a crush on this 10-year-old, and now it's really weird to go back into that psychosis of being like, remember being a little kid and thinking these kids were so old, and now thinking, man, I want to punch that kid in his face. Okay.
Yep. Go from crushes to child abuse.
I have one more because I was gone for 2 weeks, so you know.
Oh yeah,
so,
hide your Instagram when you're done.
Oh yeah. I saw a movie called. I watched a trilogy. It's the Before trilogy, directed by Richard Linklater. So Before Sunset, Before Sunrise, and Before Midnight. And these movies are just people talking. And when I say that, I mean it. The first movie is Ethan Hawke and I can't remember the actress' name, and now I feel like a turd. And this wonderful actress. And they're literally just walking around a European city and talking. That's it. And they do start to fall for each other, like, obviously. But I was so engaged. And I tried to watch this with my ex-girlfriend. And nothing has ever lost a human's attention faster. And nothing is more indicative of why we broke up. Because she could not. She was like, you're serious. Like, these two people are just talking and being philosophical. And at some points it does get cheesy. Like, because he is playing a 24-year-old guy who's trying to be philosophical with a French girl on a train. But, like, it is fascinating. And they just get followed around. I wish Tyler Harris was here. I think he'd endorse me. But
no, I know what I actually haven't seen them, but I know what they are. Like I've heard.
I'd watch it.
Yeah. And the first one's less than 90 minutes, which is great. The other two are a little longer, but not too long. But they are just, it's fascinating to think Richard Linklater, who's a very like well-renowned director, made these two movies where it was just him and two actors. Both the actors were not originally writers, but are credited as writers on all three movies now because it was just the three of them. I mean, of course, you have, sound and cinematographer, but for the most part, it's these three people creating this story, and you see it evolve. And I don't want to spoil anything because I do think you guys should watch
separated, like by a lot of years? The movies,
yeah,
like,
that's
they made
9 years exactly.
Like, wait, the whole thing is 9 years, or 9 years in between
each one?
Wow.
So 94, 2003, and then 2012. Yeah.
And like, isn't it supposed to be like the same amount of time has transpired in the film as well?
So, and that's what he also did. Boyhood, which is the one where he shot it over 15 years with that kid.
Yeah.
And so, just unlike anything I've ever seen. And if you're a little bit of a romantic and you can just appreciate like the awkwardness of two humans meeting and chatting, which is it's like an hour and a half long meet cute, which is right up my alley. I liked it a lot. And so the first two are on HBO Max. And then the third one I watched illegally. Here's the thing. I subscribe to so many streaming services that
to justify it here.
If something's no, because I've done plenty without justification, but like I legitimately, like I have 6 siblings, so we share a lot. But I'm like, if it's not on any of these streaming services, yeah, I'm going to go. I've given enough money to Hollywood, okay? Also, yes, I'll plug my Instagram. I just drove for 3 weeks, essentially, around the country, around the western part of the country, visited people, saw like the redwoods, which I've always wanted to see, that sort of thing, hung out on the beach. And I am probably going to be living abroad for the next year. So I started a new Instagram called Where is Mitchell? Just because I don't want to overload like my friends and family who don't want to see a bunch of Instagram stuff, but I want to be able to just post more and more so to have it for me. Like in 10 years to have that as an album, even if I make it private or whatever, is so much better than just having them on my phone. I kind of like having the Instagram layout, and for my friends and family that are close to me and also enjoy travel, it'll be kind of fun for them to watch. But yeah, that was a lot. Tyler.
Oh, you're good. Well, I guess the first thing I'll talk about is there's a game from like 1999 that is coming out again. It's called Tony Hawk's Pro Skater.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And it comes out in like 2 weeks, I think. Now, there's a demo you can play, but it fucking is stupid and it defeats the purpose of a demo. You have to pre-order the game to play the demo, which is bonkers. Which I did because I'm a sucker. And I'm going to do it to save you the trouble. It's good.
Okay.
It's just what you want. It's nice because it's just the warehouse level is the demo.
That's like the only one I ever played anyways.
It's combining.
It's great.
Max loves it. I gave it to my 2-year-old and he grind a rail by himself.
Sweet.
I told him like just press X and triangle right next to the rail and he did it. And I was like, holy shit! I like lost my mind. I was like, that was so cool. And now he's like really cocky. He's like, I'm really good at this game. Yeah, no, it's because it's 1 and 2 combined, but 1 didn't have a lot of the features 2 had. So like things like doing the manual
is both.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so like doing a manual was only available in 2, I believe. Like wall planting and reversing like that, stuff like that. And then like transitioning into pipes was only in 2, but that's now been carried over into 1 as well.
Sweet.
So yeah.
Can you still collect the skate letters and everything too?
So the demo is just like a free skate session
okay. Got it.
in the warehouse. So I haven't done any of the objective stuff, but I assume that's all going to be there in the demo. So what I'm saying is it's great. You don't have to pre-order it if you don't want to. Just buy it when it comes out. It comes out like September, like first week of September sometime, I believe.
Justin, what's your number one memory with Tony Hawk video games? Or the game type or whatever skater you like the most?
I was always I always played Tony. That was he was my It was either Tony and if I was feeling like a little adventurous, then I'd play Bucky Larson.
Bucky Lassick.
Lassick, sorry, Bucky Larson. Yeah, Bucky Lassick.
I just want to say I'm all about Bob Burnquist, and I loved playing Graffiti, where you would do the hired trick to like make the thing your color.
Yeah.
Oh man, I spent a lot of hours.
I hope
playing
that's still in there.
Yeah, that and like
Spider-Man
skate
in number 2.
Yeah.
Was that the the cheat code or whatever?
No, he's like the unlockable character
Yeah.
in number 2. I wonder if they're going to still get him. He'll probably be a PlayStation exclusive.
Sony. Yeah, exactly.
Is it on all consoles?
Yeah, I
I
think
think
so.
so. Yeah.
But yeah, it's a lot of fun. And the soundtrack, they got all the original soundtrack, but like 4 songs they weren't able to get the rights to, but then they added a ton.
Sweet.
And it's a pretty sweet soundtrack. So
If you're an artist, don't you want? You're like, yeah, have it.
yeah,
I want
but
my-
it's the record label that's
that's true.
one deciding it. Anyway, that was just the demo, but you don't have to do it to play the demo. It's great. The other thing I watched this week is I didn't have a lot of time. It's going to sound like I had a lot of time. I don't even remember the name of it. Shit. But if you pull up Hulu, the first thing it advertises to you about shark attacks, that's what I watched.
It is
And
Shark Week. Or
I
was.
am terrified of sharks. It's my number one fear. And I know some of you out there are one of those assholes who's like, well, sharks aren't really that dangerous.
Vending machines kill more people every year.
Yeah, fuck you. Like, seriously, I can be afraid of what I want to be afraid of. I'm not saying let's go hunt down all the sharks. They're just animals. I get it. But it doesn't mean I can't be afraid of them. Fuck you. I really hate those people. I really hate those people.
I saw a shark last week.
Dude, was it terrifying?
It was pretty small and it had a weird shaped head, but I'm like, I'm not like the people around me. We were 99% sure it was a shark, but it's just interesting to be like, oh, there's an actual shark just right there.
Yeah, well, that's the thing though. Is like I'm fascinated by them, even though I'm terrified of them. Like, and I was born in Hawaii. Like, I shouldn't be that afraid of sharks. But
you've been landlocked for too long.
The ocean and sharks scare the shit out of me. But hammerhead sharks are the coolest damn thing in the world. I don't know why. I'm just very fascinated. Anyway, it is a stupid like History Channel, Discovery Channel, like
Eyewitness shark attack.
way over the top documentary. Yeah, I think that's probably it. And man, the first lady they go to, okay, one lady, holy shit, worst life ever. Her friend gets murdered, and it was her surfing buddy. And so to go and grieve and deal and cope with it, she goes surfing and then gets attacked by a fucking shark. And I'm like, just stop. Don't go anywhere. Like, stay in your house. But yeah, there's another woman. She had the worst one by far. And like, her whole back of her leg's gone. And like, it's now healed, but it's still like they weren't able to put anything in there. So it shows back her leg. When she bends it, you can see every bone and like muscle. Like,
So do you watch it out of like some sort of sick fear /
look,
I don't know.
I don't know if it's like trying to face my fears or if it's just that I've been so afraid of it my whole life that I like avoid it. And now I'm like, well, what's interesting about it? I don't know. I just am weirdly fascinated by the thing I'm terrified of. And this woman got away. She does what you're supposed to do. You know, you're supposed to go for the eyes. She stuck her whole fucking arm into its eye. She said, like she said, it was like putting your arm in a bowl of Jello. Like she just went right through the eyeball and like, man. Anyway, good watch if you're just into like, because like the narrator's like super over the top and cheesy and it's great. And the last thing I'm going to recommend is an album by a band. It's not particularly new, but they've been releasing like new music, like new songs just periodically. I don't know if they're like they're releasing a lot, so I don't know if they're actually going to do a whole album or if it's just like we finished a song, here it is. Yeah. Like, but the band is called Idols, and they are how do I describe Idols? They're like a hardcore band, I guess, like a hardcore punk band, but it's really fascinating. The album I'm going to recommend is Joy as an Act of Resistance, which my favorite song by them is called Never Fight a Man with a Perm. And it is a wonderful song. The band is very appealing because they are very like in your face and aggressive, like you would expect from a band of that genre. But then their lyrics are, and like it's not like a lot of punk where you can't understand the lyrics. The messaging is very clear, and it's a lot of the songs are like very opposed to the idea of like stereotypical masculinity and are very like it's very juxtaposed to its aggressive nature and talks about very like sensitive subject matter. And yeah, there's like a song, I can't remember it. I think it's called, I got it right here. It is called Samaritans, and it's really good because it's like just the whole concept of toxic masculinity and how it's just fucked our culture kind of. And he like talks about how like it's like the mask of masculinity is a mask that's wearing me. And he's like, and this is why you never see your father cry. Like, it's like this really just like cool, but it's like this is all being shouted at you, like, and it's just like really fun. It's really thought provoking, but also very like just good, like, I don't know, just good punk music.
Cool. I have a question. Are either of you guys going to consider paying $30 for Mulan?
No.
Wait, do you have to pay $30? I thought it was going on.
So it's going on Disney Plus, but as like a pay-per-view type of thing.
But then they're charging $30 for it beforehand. Wow.
Here's my thing. I wouldn't because it's just me, but I would, like, my sister's going to do it, but they, you know, my two sisters get together. They each have 2 or 3 kids. Like, okay, you have 7 people watching it for $30, and I get why they're passing up theatrical release, which is kind of sad for me. I was hoping they would just hold out. I was just curious if you guys would consider that. Okay.
If May wants to watch it, maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, did you guys hear about the first treatment script for that movie?
No.
No.
Oh, it was a nightmare. So the treatment script leaked, and their original pitch for Mulan was the main character is going to be a white European man who's coming to China and sees Mulan's like story. And I'm like, I mean, that's bad in itself, like just on anything, but like the whole point of the Mulan story is like, are you a fucking idiot? Like, yeah. So there's a lot of backlash for that. And then like Disney had to be like, that was just the treatment script and we're not approving it. Like,
But even like, I guess they're white people have just done a bunch of really stupid stuff. I think even before anything was going on where it was like, hey, we need to stop whitewashing or white savioring stories, like that is not the best way to tell that story.
No, it's a terrible way.
like everything about that is just the wrong thing to do.
And I know they've been on the nose a little bit too much with some of their live action, but I'm a little sad that they're not doing it's not a musical. But
Yeah, I'm sad that
I'm excited to see
Mushu's
it.
not in it.
what?
Mushu's not in it?
Yeah.
No. And
I'm
I'm
not watching that movie.
honestly, Mulan needs to be rated R. Like, let's just make a
Have a
gritty
war movie.
Yeah.
I think it's going to give us like another badass heroine. So I'm down with it, but I don't think I'm going to pay $30 for it. I'll wait. But I think that's what you have to do because like these other like Trolls came out for $20. King of Staten Island. Those are kind of 2 of the bigger movies that decided to try and release on this VOD form. I get that Disney has to make their money back, and a ton of people will pay for it. And if you have so many people, it's probably better than a theater and all that. Or price wise. But I'm a movie theater guy. I just want them to be open again. Cool. That was just a random question that I had. Modern times. Cool. Well, next week, remember, we're going to be watching Interstellar thanks to our homie Allison D. Moore. So brush up on your Foley artist life, and we will see you next week. This has been Mitchell Marshall along with
Tyler McKinley.
Gwen Hammer.
Justin Hammer.
Peace.